Welcome to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at Ethereum. This is going to be a lower time frame video. We do have a higher time frame video up above, so check that out if you haven't already. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, so within the higher degree counts here, we have a couple of ways we're looking at this. Either this move here is a incomplete move to the downside, in which case what we could see is something along these lines, where this is actually an X wave, and then we're looking for the potential to still see price look to move to the downside. Now, within this count, effectively what we'd be saying is we're looking for a 3-wave move. Minimum requirement would be 752. 1-to-1 is down here at this 394. So if we fail to break back above this 2141, we could potentially start looking for this move to the downside. Now, if we're looking at this in another way where the X wave is incomplete, what we could still be looking for is that this move to the upside could just be a corrective move as an A wave. And what we're looking for is the potential that we could see a B wave still look to come in here. And our common target for this as a B wave would be between this 1372 and this 1064. So even if we do start to see a bigger 3-wave structure to the downside, there is still potential to push up here one more time for this C wave. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this idea. If we're going to get a bigger corrective structure where this is bigger W and X and a Y, then potentially this could still align with coming up one more time and then still seeing that push to the downside. Now, within our bullish count, what we would be saying is that we actually have a low in place over here, and what we're looking for confirmation of this would be a bigger move up towards this 4134. Within this count, what we'd be saying is that this was a 4th wave completed here, and we're looking for this 1212, and then we're looking for this 1618 up here towards the zone of this 3836 for confirmation that this is completed. So we're going to go into the micro counting now and discuss this. Effectively, within this count, if this is 1 2, and actually what we have here is another 1 into this high, this is a 2, then effectively we only came down to this 0.236. Now, because of the fact that we only came down to this 0.236, this is making this less likely, but it is still a potential that we could see this in this way. Alternatively, in the bullish count that we have stated here, what we could then look at is that this is actually 1, this is 2, we have another 1, this is another 2, and then we're looking for this confirmation by a bigger push up towards 2639 for confirmation. Now, if this is the case, we don't want to cross the 1620, and we need to start to see impulsive structure coming to the upside here. So within our bullish count here, what we're looking for on the micro is saying that what we have here is that this is 1 2 3, this is 4, this is 5 into this high. Now, what we were discussing in the previous video was that possibility that we're looking for a bigger wave 2 pattern to develop here, looking for this zone ideally between this 50% and the 786, but we have actually come down towards this 0.382. Now, if this is a more complex correction as a WXY, it is not uncommon for these to target out between this 382 and this 50%. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this. We do also have this trend line from further back here where we could see price push down into one more time towards this zone here. Directly below where we are would be this 1773 as a possible target. Now, if we actually look to hold this 0.382 area, there is a potential here that we could already be looking for that possibility of a push to the upside. Now, I have got this target lower down here towards this 0.618 because I'm not convinced that this is over yet, but if we had to see a reversal from where we currently are here, effectively we'd have to move up towards this 2496 for confirmation of this idea as a bigger impulsive structure to the upside. Now, if we do look to move down towards this 50%, that would change the target to 2460. And if we do come deeper towards this golden pocket area here, 2400 is going to be around about where we're looking for. Now, within this move down here, we also need to be careful because at the moment, I'm looking at this as a W, an X, and a Y down, but we need to just be very careful because we could also argue that this is ABC up into here, this is another X wave, this is ABC. Now, if that's the case, we could actually be looking for a bigger break to the downside, but until we actually break this 1620, I'm going to be focusing on this idea of looking for support to come in this green box area. If we start to lose this 786 level, it starts to become less likely that this is playing out, and ideally I'd like to see this looking to turn around fairly soon because it is starting to drag out a little bit to the side here. So we need to be careful of that idea that we could still be looking for that downside that we went over earlier. Now, if we are looking at this as a corrective move over here, where we're looking for that wave 2, effectively the way that I'm currently looking at this is that this is a W, this is X, and then we're looking for this Y wave. Now, it is also potentially possible that this could be AB, and then what we could have is this is one ABC for 1, this is our wave 2, this is our wave 3, this is our wave 4, and this is our wave 5. Now, if that is the case, effectively what this would mean is we could have a low in place here, which would be at this 1811. Now, if we continue to hold this, the problem is the structure up is just looking corrective. So it's not giving me a lot of confidence. But if we start to see this low hold, we form this as a 1-2, we get another 1-2 here. We see 3, 4, 5, something like this, another 4th and a 5th, breaking back above this wave 2 high here at this 1878. Then potentially what we could see is that this could actually end up being a wave 1. We see a 3-wave move down, and then we start to see that continuation to the upside from this point. But we'd need to see whether this low holds. Otherwise, it becomes more likely that what we have here is that this is our A wave here. This is a B, and what we could be doing is either forming a C wave from this point, which just hasn't developed nicely yet, or alternatively, what we are getting is that we have some kind of a diagonal pattern here where this is 1, 2. We're looking for this as a 3, this is a 4, and we could still see another 3-wave move to the downside. Now, the key thing within this idea here is if this is what's playing out and we're looking to end in a diagonal pattern here, one of the things I will be looking for is that if we draw a line from this low to this low, over here of the wave 3, potentially we could see an interaction with this lower trend line again. If that's the case, potentially we could see this look to complete towards this 0.618 area, which would be this 1802, and then we wouldn't want this to cross this 1777. If we do cross that 1777 area, effectively this would be invalidated, and it would probably mean that within here we have something like this playing out, where this whole move is rather a bigger 5-wave structure that is still developing, where we're going to get some additional waves to the downside. So this is what I'm going to be keeping an eye out here on the shorter term, looking for more evidence that the reversal has happened. We've come down potentially towards the 786 area, so we could look for that possible reversal from this zone, but I'd like to see more confirmation of this, because effectively at the moment, this is very choppy and corrective. We don't really have any impulsive moves to the upside as of yet, just bar some of these lower degree ones like this one over here. If we do see this look to hold the low here, potentially we could start to see this developing, like I said, as a bigger 5-wave structure. Then we'd have to see whether we continue to hold this low on a retracement to see whether we have further, confirmation that something like this is actually taking place. We have technically done enough here as a correction. We have come down into this 382, like I said, but we don't have enough confirmation of this move being completed, looking for this upside. Now, another thing I just want to discuss here is that within that bearish case, what we could see is that rather what we have here is a bigger flat correction, where we are looking at this move as a bigger flat over here. So within this count, effectively what we'd be saying is that this is a B wave, and then we could still be looking for the C wave down. So this is why I'm looking out for this possibility of, this impulse starting over here to the downside. 1605 is going to be the 1-to-1 if this is the case. If we have this as a flat, effectively what we could start to see is 5-wave move to the downside looking to play out over here. Now, if this is the case and what we're looking for is this idea of this as a C wave, effectively what we need to see is 5 waves down. Now, what I'm looking out for is that if we do see price look to move up from this area where we see this as a potential A wave, or that wave 1 as a diagonal, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If we just see a bigger 3-wave move to the upside and we fail to actually break this 786 area, we need to be very cautious of the idea that this could look to extend down. Now, as an extension to the downside, what we would typically be looking for here would be a 1.618 from this as a 1-2 here, and then looking for that possibility of that breakdown, after having a move up. Now, it is also possible that within the smaller time frame here, we could start to break down more impulsively. Now, if we are looking at this idea of a bigger breakdown more impulsively here, what we could actually argue is that within the structure we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 here. Now, until we actually start breaking back above these highs here, so the first one, which would be over here towards this level of this 1881 and this level here of this 1928, until we actually break these highs, we need to be very careful that if price starts to break down in a bigger way, what we could actually have is that this is still forming as an impulse, where this becomes our wave 2 over here. And then we see price looking to break down towards this 1749, really until, like I said, we break back above this high. And as a sort of lower target for a bit more confirmation, I'd like to see us break back above this 1865. you know, to give us a bit more clarity that this could potentially look to invalidate. But really, until we actually take this high, this could all just be a bigger 1-2 here. And then we still see this third, fourth, and a fifth to the downside. Now, this could then look to snowball this move down here, where effectively we could have a series of 1s and 2s. And as you can see here, that if the blue count plays out as I have it marked out here, effectively this would hit the 1.618 of this yellow count. Now, if we hit that 1.618, which is sitting at the 1732, this would then align with the idea that from this high here, we could potentially see an additional fourth and a fifth, which could look to push us down towards the 1692 to the 1663 area. Now, within our bullish case here, that would still be above this low, which is sitting over here at the 1620, but it starts to become less likely that if we see a move like this to the downside, where, you know, this is taken, if we're going to look at this as A, B, and C, ideally I'd like to see this either be completed over here, or potentially we get one more low here and then we look to reverse. If we see something like this which drags out and takes a bit longer, it becomes more likely that, like I said, you know, possibly this C wave is in play. Now, as well as that, even if we do start to develop a 5-wave move up, we need to be cautious of this idea that if we see this move actually develop just as 3 waves, where this becomes A, this becomes a B wave, and then we see a C wave to the upside, this would still align with, you know, a corrective count here, where we could argue that this whole move down here is A, we see this is A, we see a B wave, we see another 5-wave move to the upside, and then we still look to break down. So the key thing within this is that if we get a 5-wave move here, we have a 3-wave move down, we get another 5-wave move to the upside here, we're going to have to wait for that support to prove itself above this low before getting too confident that this is starting to extend out. Otherwise, this could, like I said, be just ABC, and then we look to break to the downside, because we do have a potential target box up here between this 2125 to this 2020. And what this has within it is the potential of actually swing failing these highs again. We already did this once over here. And what I'm looking for is, if we do look to push up higher, we also do have this weekly naked point of control sitting towards this zone of this 2081. If we do look to push up higher here, where this becomes a bigger A, B, and we see a C wave, which looks to push up into this zone of this 2376 to this 2141, this would also align with the idea that this could actually be becoming a bigger flat correction, where we see 3 waves to the upside pushing into this target box, and then still seeing a decline to the downside in a bigger 5-wave pattern. Now, this wouldn't fit into our bullish count that well, but this would fit into the idea that, you know, this could be potentially an X wave up here, and then we're looking for that Y wave down. So we need to just be careful of these ideas. You know, there is still potential here that we can see lows come in, but until we actually take this low of this 1620, I am going to be focusing a little bit more on that idea that, you know, as long as the support area here holds, we could be looking for that continuation to the upside one more time, because it would make the count a bit neater. Having a look at the daily CPR lines here, what we can see is that we're currently holding above our central lines, which is between this 1829 and this 1828. If we do see price come down here and we lose these levels, what I'll be looking for initially will be a response to either this previous daily low, which is sitting here towards this 1823, or alternatively the S1 line. If we do look to hold this level, then potentially we could look for that progression to the upside. If, however, we start to lose this level, then other targets for today to the downside would be this 1816, we have this 1809, and this 1803 as possible downside targets. Now, if we do look to continue to hold these central CPR lines and we see price looking to move back above both this R1 line at this 1834 and this R2 line here at this 1841, then potentially we could look to test out this 1846 to this 1854. Now, if we come over here and have a look at the weekly CPRs, what we can see is that we have actually printed a lower CPR. So this is an initial bearish sign here. We need to see whether price can confirm this or whether it actually looks to reject this idea. Now, we have come back into these central lines here, which is this 1845 to this 1833. If we do see price continue to reject off this level, what we could see is price could then continue to the downside here. Targets at the S1 would be this 1800. Now, if we lose that 1800, other targets for this week would be the 1772 and the 1733. If we do, however, see price looking to find support here and looking to push back above these central lines, weekly targets are this 1866, we have this 1906, and this 1933 as potential upside targets for this week. Now, if we come over here and have a look at the monthly pivot, what we can see is that we are actually currently below our central lines. Because we've actually come up and tested these, what we could see is price could look to move down towards this S1 line, which is sitting at this 1778. Now, this would align with actually seeing price come back down here one more time within that corrective count. If we do start to lose that level, 1701 and 1576 are going to be potential targets for this month to the downside. If we do see price move back up here, we need to be cautious of resistance coming in at this 1879, 1902, and this 1927. If, however, we manage to flip these lines into support, targets then become to the upside here. This 1980, we have this 2105, and this area up here of this 2182. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video, and leave us some feedback down below. Also in the description, you'll find a link to the Discord. Come check it out. It is free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.